Hi everyone, I'm Zina. I'm a co-term in bioengineering and I have hearing loss. I am sorry I cannot actually be physically present in your class. I have attended and participated every single year since I was a freshman, so I'm really sad that I wasn't able to do it this time. But I have a class that conflicts and I can't get out of it. So I am recording this video instead, and if you have any questions, feel free to message me at zijawadi@stanford.edu, and I'm sure my contact, you can get it somehow from David as well. كنت برقود آخر مرة شفتك من زمان. One of my Iraqi aunts, whom I had not met before, said this to me when I was 11 years old. I responded, "Sorry, can you speak English? I don't understand Arabic well." She nosily asked, "Why don't you speak Arabic?" My mother jumped in and explained that I had serious hearing loss and that it took me years of intensive speech therapy just to learn English. My aunt gasped and said, "Khatiya." "Thank you," I said, assuming Khatiya was an Arabic mazel tov, or good thing. From that moment on, I was delighted when my family and friends praised me with Khatiya, which they did often. In fact, over the years, Khatiya has become my source of motivation to overcome obstacles. My name is Zina Jawadi, as I said, and I'm currently a co-term. Although I have hearing loss, I have been mainstream my entire life, which means that I attended school with hearing students. In fact, for the majority of my life, I was the only student with hearing loss in my entire school. And there were several technologies that have contributed to my success. Here are the topics we will discuss today. First, I will briefly provide a background about myself. I was diagnosed with hearing loss when I was 3.5 years old. For the next 8 years, everyone else my age was riding merry-go-rounds. Meanwhile, my childhood years were expended riding a cycle of speech therapy, more than 10 hours a week, for 8 years, learning to pronounce one letter at a time. When I started speech therapy, I quickly learned that each speech therapist had an agenda. For example, Sarah's was to differentiate ga from da, Vicky's was to listen rather than speech read, and Sarah's was to enunciate the letter R, often saying, "It is not R, it is R, curl your tongue." The person in this photo is Sarah. And unfortunately, I actually found out that she passed away recently. I was extremely sad to hear this, mostly because I didn't get the chance to thank her. Because without all of my speech therapists, I wouldn't be where I am today. And due to my lingering speech impediment, though, I am still frequently asked where I am from, despite being born and raised here in Silicon Valley. I attended the Harker School in San Jose from kindergarten to 12th grade. While at Harker, I participated in various extracurricular activities, many of which would be considered counterintuitive for someone who can't hear. For instance, I played classical piano when I was in kindergarten and would take annual classical music theory tests. In sophomore year in high school, I completed the 10th and highest level of the Certificate of Music Theory with the highest marks and was even invited to play in an honorary recital. Additionally, I started competing in public speaking tournaments in 6th grade and competed in varsity level tournaments. By junior year, I became a national public speaking finalist, receiving 4th place out of hundreds of original oratory contestants. This achievement was humbling for me because each speech therapist and ear specialist that I talked to, many of them predicted that I may never speak English normally. Lastly, since 8th grade, my life goal has been to change the world of hearing scientifically and socially. I'm incredibly fortunate to have precociously started pursuing my passion since 8th grade. For example, a few years ago, I discovered the Hearing Loss Association of America, or HLAA. HLAA is the largest national nonprofit organization for people with hearing loss. As president and board member of the HLAA California State Association, I have been blessed with many opportunities to provide support and advocacy for people with hearing loss. There were various technologies that contributed to my success. Let's begin with the FM system. The FM system is a device typically worn by teachers in the classroom and is used in conjunction with hearing aids. The device picks up the teacher's voices and transmits it directly to the hearing aids through pegs that attach to the hearing aids. To my ears, the FM system sounds like a microphone. While I don't use an FM system anymore, for many years, my FM system was beneficial and even amusing at times. Once in first grade, I walked to the restroom almost 50 feet away from my classroom, and I suddenly heard my teacher having a private conversation with another student. Needless to say, I quickly turned off the hearing aid and the FM systems. Stanford's Office of Accessible Education, or OAE, provides me captioning in all my classes and events. Just to explain what captioning is, since maybe not all of you know what that is, captioning is essentially a way of transcribing everything that's being said aloud. So for instance, if I am to say aloud, "My name is Zina," a captioner would type in a specific keyboard, "My name is Zina," and it would pop up. It could be through a screen, it could be through a laptop, but the idea is that the person is typing what's being said verbatim. It should not be based on tone, it's purely based on what's being said. So to transcribe something like laughter, though, you would write parentheses laugh. So that's just to give you a sense of what that is. And this slide here shows you what I would use for my virtual captioning. So I would have my iPad. Now I use a laptop, but at the time I had an iPad that I would use, and it would connect to Google Hangouts, and there was a Bluetooth microphone that the speaker would use. Somebody who's sitting not in this room would be transcribing what's being said through the Bluetooth microphone. In other words, the Bluetooth microphone picks up the sound. The person from wherever that other person is, it can be in San Diego, it could be in the Bay Area, it doesn't matter. The person is listening through that microphone and is transcribing it. And I would see it through some kind of share screening app or something like that. So for instance, Google Hangouts. And that's exactly what's happening here. I use this in almost all of my classes, and I find it very beneficial to have someone physically present. I personally prefer the in-person captioning over virtual captioning because a lot of times there are technical issues with virtual captioning. And for instance, a lot of times the internet would die and then the captioner is not hearing what's being said. And because the internet stopped working, I wouldn't be getting what's being said. So that was one issue I had. Another issue I had is, say you're even a minute or two late to class. And I mean, this happens all the time. If you're in two classes back to back and the one class one's late, you're late to the next class. It could just be 1 minute. And that wouldn't be an issue generally. But if you're late to class and you have to give the teacher a microphone to use, then that's an issue, because if you're late, you're not going to get it. So you don't get anything from that class. So there are many different little issues like that I find it harder to have virtual captioning. And that's why I use my in-person captioning. And Audrey is the person who attends almost all my classes. She's incredible. She gets everything down, and she makes her accuracy rate is incredible. I really have not seen anyone who's better than Audrey, frankly. Audrey is incredible. And she is, everyone knows that she goes to class with me now, so it's quite nice to have that support system as well when you're in the middle of changing classes. It's nice to also know that I know I have my captioner, I know that it's gonna be reliable, and that's something that's really nice and also a very big privilege to have at Stanford. There are many startups, though, that are working on improving captioning, and the idea is very different. They're using real-time captioning. So they would use an app that would use speech recognition, and that would identify who is speaking and then transcribing what's being said. Given that speech recognition technology is improving a lot, it's transforming this field. And so during board meetings, for instance, if we can get this rate to be high, we can use these kinds of apps like Ava, which is the one that I'm showing you here. And this can really help a lot in costs, because captioning is expensive. It can cost more than $100 an hour. And to get a top-of-the-line captioner, for instance, in courts, it's just as expensive, and if not a lot more expensive. So that's something to just consider if you're moving forward and when you're thinking about different technologies and how we can use speech recognition for captioning. Next, let's discuss hearing aids, which is something I use all the time and rely very heavily on. So a hearing aid consists of a tiny microphone, an amplifier, a processor, and a battery. The microphone receives sounds and converts them into electrical pulses. The processor decides what sounds should be magnified and by how much. The amplifier then magnifies these pulses. The battery is the power source. Most people think that hearing aids correct hearing loss like eyeglasses do for eyes. Sadly, that's not the case at all. A normal ear selects meaningful sounds and filters out uninteresting ones. This is done automatically under the brain's control. Hearing aids, on the other hand, amplify all sounds and voices indiscriminately. With hearing aids, noise often becomes louder than the conversation. In addition, a hearing aid can cost thousands of dollars, excluding batteries and repairs. According to the CDC, the lifetime cost for a person with severe to profound hearing loss exceeds $1 million. I see the future of hearing technology reducing the cost of hearing aids and background noise. A really good way to think about hearing aids is in terms of loudness and clarity. So most kinds of hearing loss, certainly the one that does not have a cure right now, and that's damage caused by the cochlea, which is an inner ear organ, the sound is not only softer, but it also sounds muffled. And the problem is that hearing aids only work with amplifying that sound. They don't know how to make sound clearer. And that a lot of people, when they think of hearing loss, they think about only the loudness. But actually, clarity plays a huge role in that. And a lot of people with hearing loss, the clarity is a very big issue. And that's just something that I would like to emphasize. And I hope that makes it clearer for you to kind of imagine and understand why hearing aids don't work perfectly. Another issue with hearing aids is that they're uncomfortable and unstylish. So what child wants to wear these things? Perhaps it was my frustration with hearing aids that I accidentally dropped my hearing aid near the gate at my house, resulting in a state of frenzy. And the climax was in second grade when the hearing aids truly unintentionally fell on the floor of the garage and were driven over by my mother. My father gave me the look of someone who lost thousands of dollars. So we have just discussed assistive technologies that enhance communication and improve listening quality. However, people with hearing loss often have safety concerns, such as hearing fire alarms. Stanford's Office of Accessible Education has installed a fire alarm in my dorm that flashes light just in case I cannot hear the sound of the fire alarm, which I should add is piercingly loud. And just to give you a sense, this is what the fire alarms look like. And if you go to any dorm room, they're there. They're in towards the top of the ceiling. Today, we discussed assistive technology for people with hearing loss. When I started, I mentioned all these khatiyas that everyone showered me with when I was a child. And I always assumed it meant you are doing great despite the odds. In fact, I started encouraging others with khatiyya myself. One day, my family and I were in a wedding, and I enthusiastically shouted, "Khatiyya!" to the bride and groom. My mother immediately pulled me aside and said, "Zina, you realize khatiyya means poor thing, right?" Unfortunately, as I have discovered over the years, khatiyya, or pity for people with disabilities, is an international phenomenon. Yet I believe my life represents what I previously thought khatiyya meant, an Arabic version of mazel tov. Ear experts would not have expected me to be where I am today. And so I am proud to still embrace my childhood's perception of khatiyya, mazel tov. Thank you.